No,
Oh, great.
we are live.
Welcome, everybody. We are going to give it a couple of minutes just for everyone to log in to our LinkedIn Live presentation. So hang tight until about 12:02.
This is so interesting. It looks like a Zoom, but it's,
But it's LinkedIn. And how do we see who is on?
I'm not too sure if we can. Let me see. I'm texting our production assistant, Holly.
Hope everyone's enjoying the sunny weather if you're out in New Jersey, New York, after 3 days of rain.
Yeah, finally nice out. Still a little chilly though.
Exactly. Yeah. Yesterday it was weirdly warm, but yet
I
pouring.
know, yeah.
And today it's cold.
Very cold and sunny. Yesterday was warm and misty.
All right. Well, I see we're a couple minutes past the hour, so I think it's a good time to get started. I'm April Mason. Want to welcome you all to our LinkedIn Live, covering 5 ways to maximize media coverage in the artificial intelligence age. I am president of Violet PR. We are a boutique public relations firm based in Montclair, New Jersey, specializing in the economic development industry as well as real estate, architecture, and engineering. And just quick note about today's presentation. We're going to have about 30 minutes. And this presentation is really designed to be AI 101. So if you're using AI on a daily basis, we would love your questions and comments. But this presentation is designed to really be more of an introduction to some of the tools that we've started using this year to help speed up our work and reach more journalists.
Yeah, awesome. And my name is Alexa Kengelosi. I'm the account manager here at Violet PR. I work with several of our economic development based clients, working to generate positive media coverage through creative storytelling. A few months back, my colleagues and I realized that AI is here to stay. It's only growing each day. So it was essential for us to learn how to use AI tools and leverage them to help streamline day-to-day tasks as well as amplify media results for our clients through list building and other strategies. So, looking forward to sharing some of those tips with you today.
Awesome. So, just to get us started, I started thinking about the mid 90s and those years that I started my career actually in Kansas City. There's a picture of me in my suit as a 21-year-old starting out. And at that time, we were experiencing a huge transformation in the way business was done. And we were going from an analog world of, finding media contacts in big, thick books called the Bacon's Directory of Media, and faxing journalists news releases, calling them on the phone to make sure they received the news release, sometimes mailing packets out. But while I was working that first year in 1995, we got access to the internet, and that began to change the way we worked. And then it was the dot-com boom soon after. So I believe we are in the midst of another transformation in the way we do business, and that is due to the rise of AI. And on the next slide, yeah, so we've just pulled a couple of stats here. One is that 80% of comms professionals think AI will be a game changer for this industry. I would guess actually it probably should be 100% because it really will change and is changing everything that we do. We did a quick bit of research. There are already more than 50,000 AI companies operating around the world. About 25% of those are here in the United States. And the whole market has increased by 50% just in the last 2 years. So again, this is going to be an incredibly disruptive tool that we can all use to do our work. Just to run through the agenda for today, we've already gone through our introduction. We're going to focus on 5 ways that you can start using AI now in your marketing communications tactics, and we'll show you some examples of how we've been using it. We'll talk a little bit about the risks and some of the ethical concerns of artificial intelligence, and then we have some suggested resources for you guys. We should have some time at the end for some Q&A. So certainly type in any questions you have into the chat, or actually into the LinkedIn function, and we'll be able to answer those for you.
All right. As April mentioned, there are thousands of new AI tools coming onto the market each week. The ones that we listed on the screen right here are just a few that we're continuing to use on a weekly basis, and we're always keeping our eye out for new tools. For data research and distilling down data, PaperGuide and DataRobot are great tools. For copywriting and copy editing, ChatGPT is a classic, which I'll get into later. Grammarly is also also an application that I love to use for copy editing, and also a nice plugin to add to Outlook or Slack features. And with graphics and infographic design, Canva is a great tool. They just integrated Canva with an AI database where you're able to input an AI blurb, and almost like it kind of acts as like a Photoshop feature, although it is not yet perfect. So that's one that I'm keeping an eye on. I continue to check in on Canva's AI features to see if eventually we're able to get a nice perfected graphic image. And I'll also dive into that a little bit later into this presentation. So, understanding the available tools and what they can and can't do. ChatGPT, you'll notice that we'll be referencing ChatGPT quite often throughout this presentation for a few reasons. It is the fastest growing AI application on the market. It is free with option of some premium options. It's very versatile and also gives users the ability to interact with the interface as if they were conversing with a human through chats. And you'll notice here on the screen that the interface is very user-friendly. It almost looks like Google in the sense that you're able to input a question or a prompt. And before getting into what an ideal prompt looks like, I want to mention that with any AI tool, it's always essential in order to gather the desired results. The applications always need human guidance, so it's important for the users to pull together in-depth question and prompts. And here are a few things that I always like to look for when I'm developing a prompt that I will then input into AI. I always want to be specific, so I add descriptions in terms of how long I want the piece of copy to be, details in terms of the type of copy, whether it be a press release, a pitch, or even just like a bio. I also like to add in my own data points and ask ChatGPT or any AI tool to build off of some of those data points. I'll request sources. And one of my personal favorite ones is asking it to take on a persona. So a specific style and tone you would want that blurb to spit back out at you. For example, if I'm looking to create a byline article on the growth of the manufacturing sector, and I ask AI to take on a persona of a seasoned manufacturing expert, that byline will look a lot different than if I ask AI to take on a persona of a recent graduate from a manufacturing trade program. So it's interesting how it might, differentiate in tone based on those specifics.
And one thing I think we should note, and we're going to note this a few times during the presentation, it's critical that you check the source material that ChatGPT or any bot gives you. I feel like the content spits out and it sounds like it knows absolutely what it's talking about. And it's critical to fact check because it often will pull in incorrect or inaccurate or dated information.
Yeah, definitely. It's very convincing. All right, so now we're just going to go into a few examples of prompts. So a simple prompt, you'll notice here, we mentioned, write a blurb on mall redevelopment, a very simple, not really anything too detailed. And you'll notice here that what it delivers is kind of almost looks like a definition of some sort. You'll notice as you skim through it that some of the language is a bit fluffy, which is not ideal for PR writing or press writing. Off the bat, too, what I notice is there's no data points, stats, or figures in here. So it's really difficult to kind of hone in on any specific blurb here because there are no numbers or anecdotal data here. So this wouldn't be an ideal piece of content that we would want to use. It's just a little bit more fluffy. But a detailed prompt, an example here is you'll notice that I mentioned I'm a real estate developer aiming to create a pitch no more than 300 words. So I'm noting the length of the content that I'm looking for to be sent to a media reporter covering commercial real estate. So that's kind of the persona I'm taking on as this real estate developer pitching to a commercial real estate reporter. And you'll also notice here I add in a piece of data with hopes that the AI tool will build off of that data. And what it delivers off the bat, it's a structured pitch. This is kind of exactly what a pitch is supposed to look like to a reporter. It even includes a subject line. You notice in the first paragraph or the hook, it incorporates a piece of data, and then it breaks down some of the real estate development trends into 5 different bullets. And it also builds out with a few other stats throughout this pitch. I do want to note that, as April mentioned before, we would always want to double check the sources of each of the data points and also just the trends that it may pull in to ensure that they are in fact accurate. I also want to mention that we would only ever use a pitch like this as a starting point. We would never just copy and paste it and send it out to our media contacts. I think for a smaller communications team, these AI tools make it really helpful to kind of create the structure of a piece of PR and press material.
I think it does a nice job. It's a great start.
It's like the perfect, just instantly the way it looks, it's a shell of and a structure of what a pitch should look like. So it's a great starting point for sure. And also too, if you're double checking those sources, you never know if you're able to pull in data points that maybe you wouldn't have been able to find on Google or other websites. So identifying targeted media. So a few applications that we often use mostly would be Muck Rack and Cision. Those are the main media monitoring and media list building tools. ChatGPT is a little bit, I wouldn't say it's that polished in terms of building out media lists, but it's a good resource to dig into some research and learn about some of the outlets, and I'll get into that. I also do want to mention ChatGPT is a free application. There is a premium version, which I think is like around $20 to $30 a month that includes other features. Muck Rack and Cision is a paid application that is about $10,000 to $30,000 a year, dependent on how many users and how in depth the packages that you're signing up for. All right, so free list building AI tools. Here we have an example from ChatGPT. I prompted the AI tool and requested for it to pull local and business reporters covering the Dallas metro area. You'll instantly notice it pulls in 3 reporters and 1 media outlet, the Dallas Business Journal, which is kind of a given. It's not a robust application for media list building. We would typically want to build out a list with 50 to several hundred contacts. We don't have any emails here that we would be able to like reach out to these reporters. It's just not as robust as we would like it to be. I guess it's a good starting point in terms of research, but not totally ideal for building out a larger media list. But what I do like using ChatGPT for is oftentimes at Violet PR, we're pitching top tier media outlets, but then we also hone in on other markets. So let's say we're looking to build out a media list with national media contacts based in Canada, those national outlets in Canada. So I'll ask ChatGPT to pull those outlets. So it does a nice job listing some of these reliable sources. And then what I would do then was take it a step further and plop in that information into my more premium subscriptions like a Muck Rack or Cision to build out the list. So for a research standpoint, it does a pretty good job. To actually build out a large comprehensive Excel media list, it's not quite there yet. So premium list building tools, Muck Rack, you'll notice here, it pulls in a list using the same prompt of pulling in the Dallas Metro reporters. It pulls in nearly 700 contacts. So a lot more robust of a list here. And what I love about this application is you're able to click into each of these contacts and you get a nice comprehensive profile on each of them. So the outlet that they write for, you'll notice on the right-hand side, it includes email addresses, phone numbers. You're even able to sift through some of the articles that they've written recently to ensure that their beat and subject matches with what you're pitching. So in terms of Muck Rack, definitely more of a robust tool to build out those lists. They're also developing more, kind of integrating more AI tools into the Muck Rack applications. PressPal AI is relatively new. I think they released it about like 2 months ago. You're able to input your pitch or press content. It'll fine tune your content. It's not as perfect as ChatGPT would be, but there's also an element to this where based on the content that you input, it pulls in a list of suggested reporters that might be interested in covering your pitch or press release based on some of the keywords that are mentioned throughout. So you'll notice on the right-hand side, I inputted a blurb on the Lehigh Valley's growing manufacturing sector. It pulled in a not great pitch, so I wouldn't recommend using that. But on the right-hand side, you'll notice it pulls in a list of 5 or so reporters that might be interested in covering this news.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and this
Really.
is something that because they recently rolled this out, this would be an application that I would want to keep my eye on. It's not perfect just yet in terms of the content that it might produce, but I'm always continuing to input some information to see because you never know when it pulls out a nice structured pitch that I might be able to pull from. So I'm always just checking in on some of these new AI applications.
Great. So another way we can use AI, not only to develop content and to do research, but to also consolidate large scale pieces of content. So for this project, we actually did subscribe to a premium AI, the premium ChatGPT tool, which I think Alexa said is around $30 a month. So it's
Yeah.
not extremely expensive, but you must subscribe in order to upload a large PDF. So this global report on the food crises was hundreds of pages long, and it was something we really didn't have time to sift through, but we wanted to pull out the 5 major points from this report. So we uploaded it, and within seemingly seconds, the 5 main points from the report are spit out here. And when we check them against the report, they're fairly accurate. I mean, they're all at least pulled from the report, so we know that they're accurate in that sense. Certainly, we'd want to, again, run these 5 points past our client who developed the report and make sure that it does a nice job of summarizing it. But it's a really easy way to get pretty clear on a complex piece of information.
Yeah, and I also want to add too, I know a lot of the economic development organizations that we work with are starting to pull together their end of year reports. So this is also a good way that once you have the final version of the report that's ready to be pushed out, if you plop that report into an AI application, and let's say you're trying to come up with a few social media posts to highlight some of the top level data points, it's a good way for it to distill down that data.
Yep. I think that social media posting component is excellent. It's a great start.
Yes. Yeah.
So another way we are using AI is to draft media pitches and press releases, press kits. And I'm just going to show you a couple of examples here. We asked it to write a press release about the Kansas City Airport Terminal, which actually opened last year. You can certainly ask it to write something about news that will happen. The challenge is, of course, it's pulling from existing information that's already out on the internet. So what it pulled was really an exceptionally well-written, well-laid out news release with a headline, a deck, a dateline, and it was able to pull in the exact date that the airport did open, along with a lot of important stats. So that was great. We also asked then ChatGPT to develop a full press kit for us. Let's see what happens. It knew what a press kit was, so it pulled together a fact sheet with the number of gates, passenger capacity, accessibility, dining, and then it pulled in highlights of the new airport along with the media contacts, which they found on the Kansas City Aviation Department website. So pretty impressive start there on a fact sheet. And from there, we asked it to develop a short pitch about the opening. It knows what a pitch is, tailors the news to a specific reporter name, and it's written in more of a conversational style. I'm excited to share some great news. The airport is opening with some bullet points. And then we also asked it to develop a bio on the CEO of the airport. She is a new CEO. So what we noticed about this bio is it included some great info on the airport itself. However, it doesn't have any more background on Melissa Cooper herself and what she did prior to becoming CEO of the airport. So in this case, we would want to add in, and it's certainly possible to upload her resume, for example, to ChatGPT. And in that case, it would have hopefully spit out more expansive information on her. But I think this is just a good example of how you can use ChatGPT to come up with first drafts of content. And the first drafts, I hate to say it, are probably better than what an entry-level PR person would put together. But you do need to check all the facts.
A good starting point.
Yeah.
All right, so creating multimedia content and infographics. As I mentioned before, this is not quite developed as some of the copywriting and copy editing AI features. But and I mentioned this before as well, this is something that I'm continuing to keep an eye on. You never know when you're able to really, when these AI tools are really able to produce a polished piece of creative content. So you'll notice here through Canva, on the left-hand side, this individual has a black blouse, and through an AI prompt, I was able to type in, switch out her black top with a green blazer, and it was able to spit that out instantly within seconds. So this is just a good example of how you could use some of these AI tools as like a Photoshop. So typically Photoshop would be a premium application where individuals will be like trained on. So, now anybody with not as much photoshopping experience is able to use this application and just with simple prompts, make slight edits. Remini is also another one. This is a paid subscription. I think it's about $30 a month. There is an option to do like a $30 a free trial for the first month. But this application is interesting because it's pretty accurate in terms of completely transforming a photo. So what you do is upload, I think it's like 8 to 10 photos of yourself, and then it's able to kind of spit out these headshots. You'll notice on the right-hand side versus the left-hand side, the differentiation of the hair and the outfit and the background. And it gives you a whole suite of different options in terms of hairstyle and background and what the individual is wearing. So it's a good option for updating headshots, or let's say you're redoing your website and you want everyone's headshot to look cohesive. Plop it into one of these applications, and rather than hiring a photographer, you're able to just do it digitally through AI. And we have a few other examples here. We have April. We updated her headshot. Let's say she grew out her hair and didn't want to.
I wish I looked that
Yeah, I do
good.
notice it does make quite a few enhancements. I feel like it did probably like make my nose a little smaller. I did not request that. It kind of just does that organically. But it's interesting to see like the capabilities of it. And like I said, I'm interested to check out these tools a year from now. Maybe we'll do another updated webinar April a year from now, and I'm sure all of this content will look a lot different. Infographics. So this is a blurb on the left-hand side regarding Lehigh Valley's growing manufacturing sector, and I inputted that into Canva's AI feature and asked it to create a comprehensive infographic using that content. At first glance, it's okay. The design, maybe some of the design elements I might steal from, but if you look closer, there are some spelling errors, a lot of repetitive words. I think the word count for advanced manufacturing is like 10 on this graphic. It's just way too repetitive. But honestly, it is kind of impressive that being that AI is still so new that it is able to pull something together like this. So this is definitely another one that I'll be checking out a year from now. And you never know when you're actually able to use some of the graphic content that it pulls.
Yeah, I mean, I could see economic developers really using this once it's further along to develop, say, a map of
Yeah.
your region and highlight the manufacturing industry, big companies, for example. But yeah, in this case, we're not even sure what that visual is. It looks like a school or
Yeah.
something. It doesn't really look like a manufacturing plant.
No.
So we'll keep following up on this on these tools, and hopefully they will, I'm sure, improve. All right, so we're nearing the end of the presentation, but I think we would be remiss if we did not talk about some of the risks of AI. One would be perhaps a robotic tone. It can sound kind of like an encyclopedia if you just ask it a question without prompting it to speak in a certain voice. So be careful about that. We've talked about this multiple times in the presentation, but you must fact check. I typed in, I asked it to develop a bio on myself, and it accurately said that, I was president of Violet PR, but it thought I was a healthcare expert in addition to some of the other fields that I work in, like economic development and real estate. So I may have done a healthcare project, but certainly am not an expert. So definitely fact check every single thing. The prompts that you put in are not confidential, especially if you're just using the free ChatGPT tool. We are playing around with more secure tools where you pay a premium and ask it to be confidential, but you'll want to be careful. You don't want to upload any content that perhaps is about a new company announcement that's coming to your community in the next week or two. And then someone else goes into ChatGPT and somehow that information gets spit back out to them. So you want to be really careful about uploading anything that is still confidential or not public to ChatGPT. Another example might be inputting your financials and asking it to develop an annual report for you. It can do that, but that information is no longer confidential once you put the information into the chat bot. So be careful there. We are watching for that confidentiality tool to become more developed and secure. I personally don't really trust it quite yet.
Yeah, me either. And just to add, I always operate I only input data that's already out there that's public. If I do, let's say, if you are looking to get a shell of a press release going, then use like boilerplate language. I wouldn't include any embargoed information unless it's already released. Even if it is like a temporary ChatGPT has a feature where you can toggle it to be a temporary chat, and allegedly that content is confidential, but I would still be very weary of that.
Yep. And then finally, if you do use ChatGPT to develop a bylined article, like an article that you would submit to a magazine, just be very, very careful with that. You might be able to have it develop, again, the shell of an article, but if you rely too much on ChatGPT, it will be picked up by a lot of publications as AI generated, and they will reject your article. So be careful about that. We all want these trackers for our kids, so they're not overly reliant on ChatGPT to write their papers. But similarly, news outlets are definitely using trackers.
All right, and what's next? So I think that we're just going to continue to see these AI applications continue to get smarter and a little bit more robust. And we're also going to start seeing day-to-day applications integrate AI tools. So you may have already even noticed Slack. We use that for internal communications. We saw a few months back that they integrated an AI tool to help with day-to-day tasks. Outlook as well. One example that I find interesting too is Zoom. We were able to add in an AI plugin where whenever we're hopping on a client call or even an internal conversation, that plugin will transcribe the conversation and then deliver a pretty detailed recap and almost like an agenda of the next steps. And it gets delivered right to your email within minutes following that conversation. With this said, though, I want to mention that we are extra wary about any type of like confidential conversations that we might hold via Zoom, like internal comms. We don't want everything to be recorded, dependent on what we're chatting about, especially if there are other team members that share a Zoom link with you. So that's just something to keep in mind with AI. It is beneficial, but there are always things that you need to keep in the back of your head.
Yeah, certainly having a conversation about a challenging employee, for example, or a salary discussion on Zoom, you don't want that spitting back out to you via email or on an account where multiple people could access
Yeah.
it. So it's important to be careful.
And then we wanted to leave you all off with a few suggested resources. So we have a few outlets here. AI Explained, a really comprehensive YouTube channel that dives into all of the growing AI applications and trends. We also have a few AI newsletters that you could subscribe to, and just traditional outlets that post several AI articles on a weekly basis. So these are outlets that I'm always on top of. I kind of as AI continues to grow and change daily, I'm trying to continue to stay on top of it to learn about new ways to streamline some of our processes and our smaller day-to-day tasks.